Hey folks, Patrick Francie here, host of my podcast, The Everyday Millionaire, inviting you to listen in on this episode with my guest today, Jas Takhar. Jas has been in the sales and service industry for over 27 years, prior to deciding that he wanted to try his hand in real estate. He founded REC Canada under Royal LePage, and for over 5 years has successfully kept his team in the top 3 in the country. With 54 realtors and 11 support staff, he and the team advises and assists over 625 buyers, sellers, and investors yearly across the Greater Toronto Area. He is the author of his book titled Real Estate Intelligence, host of one of the top business podcasts in North America, the Jas Takhar podcast, and he is founder of his media company, From the Ground Up Media, where he helps other real estate agents produce quality content. His intention is always to lead with inspiring education and content and to aid others in real estate. Today, Jas shares his lessons learned and insights gained on his journey of business and real estate. Seemingly ordinary? Perhaps. Achieving extraordinary? For certain. Listen in. Enjoy. My guest today, Jas Takhar, has been in the sales and service industry for over 27 years. Soon after deciding to try his hand in real estate, he founded REC Canada under Royal LePage, and for over 5 years now, he has successfully kept his team in the top 3 in the country. With 54 realtors and 11 support staff, the team advises and assists over 625 buyers, sellers, and investors yearly across the Greater Toronto Area, and that has resulted in sales transactions well in excess of $2 billion. Jas's passion and area of expertise is in helping investors build out their real estate portfolios. And in wanting to share his knowledge and experience with the masses, he wrote a book titled Real Estate Intelligence, which teaches anyone how to buy or sell real estate on their own. Furthering his pursuit to educate and inspire, he developed a love for content creation and now hosts one of the top business podcasts in North America, the Jas Takhar podcast. And he also founded a media company, From the Ground Up Media, where he helps other real estate agents produce quality content. His intention is always to lead with inspiring education and content to aid others in removing the friction from their own life in order to help them get from where they are today to where they want to be. And with that in mind, let's get this show started. Jas Takhar, welcome to the Everyday Millionaire podcast. Dude, I'm excited to have you on the show.
I think I'm more excited to be on the show, Patrick. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I've seen you everywhere, brother. So thank you for having me. It truly is an honor, brother. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna have some fun. You're out in in Central Canada. What do we call Ontario? I call it Central Canada. It's technically Central, but everybody refers to it as East.
I was going to go down the Eastern Canada route myself.
Yeah.
I guess you're right. If you look at a map, we're more central than anything else.
Yeah.
But just born and raised here, I've always said Eastern Canada as well.
Yeah, no, so have I, but tomato. Okay, here we go. So you're there, right? So,
Yeah.
Okay, Jas, let's get listeners dialed in and say, who is Jas Takhar? If somebody says, what do you do? I know it's a loaded question for you, but
It is.
What do you do?
Look, I mean, first and foremost, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I got 2 little boys, 6 and 8 years old. But I guess from a professional perspective, I've been a real estate broker now for coming up to 17 years. I am very, very blessed to have a partner of mine in the real estate business that's actually also been on the show. I think it's safe to say I'm the better looking partner for sure.
Sure.
But Simeon and I have been together for a very long time. We're blessed to have 55 real estate agents on our team that cover this Greater Toronto Area. They're really the guys and gals that are on the streets helping people, find their first home, first condo, selling their properties, what we call smart sizing as well, like moving up, moving down in terms of types of properties. Myself and Simeon really focus our efforts on investing in real estate. So we help our clients now Oh, we're up to about a little over 10,046 people that are what we call them the REC Nation / REC Insiders, people that have been listening to our podcast, watching our webinars, just been in our community for the 17 years. We help them with investing in real estate. And obviously we're going to go into that as well. And then what I do a lot of is create content. I started this journey of creating content anywhere from, I'm going to say on average about 10 to 12 pieces a day on all the platforms, like consistently. That's the YouTubes, the podcasts, the Instagrams, the LinkedIns, because I found 4 years ago, I found podcasting, like the audio format. Then I started recording videos. But what I really fell in love with when it came to content creation is that there was a white space. There was a white space in sales professionals not creating educational content, right? Not to say that there's nobody doing it in the real estate world. I just found that there wasn't a lot of people doing it. It was more call me, a more self-promotional stuff, and the tack that I took, which is just leading with education, like giving people all the trade secrets, so to speak, and actually helping people to hopefully even do it on their own, invest in real estate, sell their properties, buy their properties, and so content creation is a big part of who I am and what I do on a daily basis. And then I have between my content creation and the real estate company, I have 12 support staff right now, and that's kind of really my passion. Like I'm watching some of the guys and gals out of that 12 support staff that have been with me for 8 years now, and I'm just thinking of one guy, for example, right now, Tyler. He was the waiter at the Jack Astor's downstairs, where my headquarters are here at Shops at Don Mills in Toronto. 8 years ago, he was our waiter. Just kind of noticed, this guy's a little different. He has some charisma, very hospitable, and now he's leading one of the biggest parts of our organization, which is like speaking and sitting down with our clients and just watching that growth. I think that for me is probably my favorite part of what I get to do is helping to develop more leaders now. It's really cool to see.
Now you're still relatively young, but everybody is to me these days. But the point is, the reason I asked that question is because you've been doing this actually quite a long time. I think your bio shows 27 years, somewhere in that. So you started young, and you continue your journey of building your business.
Now, the 27 years parts of my bio was me being in sales and service as a real estate broker.
Yep.
And having a team. It's been exactly 17 years.
Yep.
So thank you for the ego boost. I just turned 40, so I appreciate that.
That's so unfair. Yours is so unfair. No, good for you. Let me break this down, because you've given me a lot to work with here already, and we've got a lot of things I want to talk about today. But you look at your position with REC, you and Simeon Papa-Elias, who was on my show as well, as your partner. You guys have been doing some amazing things. I mean, to grow that brokerage to 54 agents in the GTA and accomplish all that you've accomplished in supporting your investors to be successful investing in real estate, and then you being a content provider as well as a leader within your organization. So let me kind of break this down, because when we look at the journey of entrepreneurship and we understand, the leaders and the contribution that they have to be. I mean, I drive content. Like I provide a lot of content. I mean, aside from my podcast or what I do, at meetings and, supporting RAIN members. I mean, I'm in the trenches with my research team, lots of economic stuff. That's I've got nerdy about that. That's weird. Okay, I digress. So my question to you in this long-winded way of leading up is, you're a content provider, but what is your role though in the business? You're a leader. Are you CEO, COO, CFO? Like where do you fall into that category?
I personally, and not to kind of have a play on words or just to make up titles, I like to think of myself as the CVO, kind of the Chief Vision Officer, where 4 years ago, almost to the day right now, we had a third business partner, and he passed away tragically. And he was kind of the face. He was the face of the of our organization. Myself and Simeon were leading really the sales arm of the organization. But what happened is that when he passed away, it left this gaping hole in who was going to be out there. I don't like to use the word the face of the brand, because I also think Simeon does his part as well, right? It was really more just who's going to take the lead now, who's gonna start putting out content. And when I say content, it doesn't mean from a video or an audio. I mean just writing the emails, who's going to make the phone calls. You talked about the journey. I've always been in sales. I said the 27 years. And so, I did newspapers when I was 12, Patrick. I went to shoe sales, and not the Al Bundy type. And some of your older listeners are going to get that reference. It was really helping sprinters and marathons. So needing to know your product, like that was really instilled in me at the age of 16. I had a co-op placement at a store that dealt with sprinters and marathon runners. Then I went into the banking industry at the age of 18, spent about 3 years with the Red Bank here in Canada, really honed in on my phone skills because I worked in the telephone banking just before online banking came out. And then 3 years in the car business working at Acura. I've spent my whole life in sales. I've had no other job. So to answer your question, like my actual role is to come up with what are we going to present to our investors? How are we going, what's going to be our sales funnel? What's going to be the process? Which team member is going to lead a specific, what we call like a product launch, an investment opportunity launch. So I'm really the front facing to the clients, where Simeon really handles our 54, 55 agents. He holds them accountable. He's kind of their coach in that sense with the realtors. He also, I'm very lucky. Like we kind of came up with an analogy where if we were a football team, I would be kind of the offensive coordinator, and he would be more of the defensive coordinator, where it's just not my strength. Like I'm not good when it comes to the legals and the accounting and all that. Like that stuff, like for Simeon, it comes second nature to him. For me, I like doing this. I like to speak with clients. I like to figure out, okay, out of my 10,046 people right now, what's the heartbeat? Like, what are they looking for, right? And then I'm going to go out and try to find that for them, reverse engineer it. So when I say the chief vision officer, I really, again, when the third partner passed away, I really sat back. I knew that we have to go back to basics, call everybody and let them know we're still in business, first and foremost. And then second, how were we going to start to speaking to clients, and what was going to be kind of our messaging? And that's when I came up with, we're just going to lead with education. We're not going to be, in my opinion, being in sales for such a long time, I think all salespeople, unfortunately, are not. It's not the most trusted profession. Like if firemen and firewomen are the most trusted profession, I think salespeople are near the bottom, and that's just kind of unfortunately the stigma around salespeople. Not that everyone is bad, but I sat back and said, look, the bar's not set that high. We just need to not push people, right? And you and I were talking off air, in my old studio, which is under construction now, there's a massive sign that says used to say removing friction, because that's a reminder. Our job as real estate brokers is to just make it as easy as we possibly can for people to make an informed quality decision. We like Rain. I mean, Rain is one of the top organizations when it comes to education. And I'm not just saying that because I'm speaking to you, Patrick. I mean, for anybody who's listening, your listeners know, but for my community who's listening that doesn't know Rain, just go Google them, check them out, Google Patrick. Like these guys head up a lot of the data that comes into the country when it comes to investing in real estate. We also, though, wanted to put our spin on it, meaning the average client in our organization is blue collar. I'm going to say 45 to about 60. That's kind of the age group. But they don't come from a background of understanding how to even refinance a property or why they should look at refinancing. Not that they should do it or shouldn't do it. That's up to them. They need to have the stomach for it. What we did is put it in layman's terms. And because I barely passed high school, I mean, I get a lot of kudos, for a lack of a better word, on my videos, because within 47 seconds, I find ways to explain it to the regular person how to refinance. I say all that because I had to learn the layman's terms because I don't have any degrees. I barely, as I mentioned, passed high school, didn't do any post-secondary school. So I had to learn by asking a lot of questions, and now I'm just filtering that out to our clients.
There's a lot to unpack in all of what you just said. So I'm going to work backwards from a couple things because I think you're stepping over a couple things. I think you're stepping over because I've had the pleasure of interviewing Simeon, and I've been kind of keeping my eye on you, knowing that you're going to come on the podcast, as well as, of course, our relationship with REC, being a trusted partner, expanding the scope of what we want to do and what you guys want to do, and what we can bring our clients collectively. But the single most important part of all of that, business wise, you and Simeon are obviously savvy. You're a sales guy. You've got a background of sales. Perfect. We all understand that fundamental. I love a good sales guy. I love being sold. I just love going in and a good sales guy that knows how to sell me. Like it's a pleasure for me. And I'm a bit of a close hound. I used to be prior to COVID, but I love going in. Like I had a sales guy that would come in and he would see me coming in, or he'd know I'd coming in. I'd walk in the door, he'd grab a blazer and he would just go, "This is like perfect for you." And like the next thing you know, I was going in for a pair of shoes. I'm walking out with a belt and a blazer and the whole thing. But I love, because I love good sales guys. I don't mind being sold. But the point is this: there's a fundamental behind even that, and that is how we share common values. To your point, sales guys are sometimes looked at as kind of the low person on the totem pole sometimes, because it's like people don't trust them and all the rest of it. But you and Simeon have created a values-based vision that you treat your clients well, yes, but you're aligning with that vision with a standard of values that actually takes you to the top of the heap in terms of how you're seen as a support mechanism, how you're seen as a support business, right? And so these are values-based conversations, and I think that's most important, which is, and forget about, integrity. Everybody goes, well, values is integrity. Well, no, it's not. That's a moral value. I'm just talking about who we are as a character, and that's so important.
Yeah, I think if you look both at like our backgrounds, so I'm born and raised here in Toronto, really the northern part of Toronto, in an area called Rexdale, where like it's again a bad stigma. You go to the corners, they're not people necessarily that you should be looking up to. But I was very sheltered. Again, I won the lottery with like the DNA that my parents possessed me with, and also just being born in that household because I had two older brothers. And for me, it's always a healthy reminder, with having two older brothers, that I'm closer to the bottom than I am to the top. Like they remind me till this day. I got a 46-year-old older brother and a 50-year-old brother, and getting high on my own supply just doesn't go really well in that household. And so I'm very blessed because of that. But my father was a taxi driver his whole life. My mother was a factory worker her whole life. Grade 4 education for my mom, grade 8 education for my dad. Simeon, pizza restaurant owners first, but then the pizza shop, right? And so just having that reminder that like it doesn't matter how much money we make and how many people love us online and all that kind of stuff, but it has never really sat well with us anyways, right? I think one of the biggest things, you said values driven and taking care of our clients. I think one thing that, and we get very loud about it, me specifically, where I tell my clients all the time, you're important, but you're not important as my staff. Like I will get rid of clients really quickly before, like my staff is number one for me, because when they're taken care of, I know what the byproduct's going to be. They're going to be happier and they're going to take care of my clients. But it's not even, and like I'm not just giving lip service because I want one of my staff members to hear it. If you ask them, I mean, am I sometimes a slight, like for a lack of a better word, like a dictator, like I want it my way? Yeah, sure. Like because I see the vision, I have some of the experience, but I mean, to a T, I mean, I think about them all the time. In fact, I'm going to say as high as, Patrick, 25 to 30% of my day is just checking in on Nikki, who's one of my videographer and editors. And then I'm checking in on my VP, Laura. Then I'm checking in on Tyler. I'm really making sure that I understand like what's going on in their lives, because I understand that work is not everything for them. I spend a lot of time here at the office. It's very important to me. I also don't expect them to work as hard as me. They don't get paid as much as I do. So that I understand all that. But for me, the clients actually come second. And then from Simos and I, we've always come third. Like, we know we'll get ours in time, and we're getting a lot right now in terms of getting back all the hard work that we've put in over the last really decade. Is when we put this thing on steroids, when it was very focused for us, right? And so, yeah, for us, it's staff first, clients, and then ourselves. And I think that's really helped us, because when we're making decisions, it's like, okay, how is this going to affect our staff? In fact, growing and partnering with Rain, that was a big decision, because we knew how large your organization is. And just meeting more people, that puts a lot of strain on our company. We needed to first hire more people. Then we said, okay, guys, Rain, if you're good with us, we're good with you guys now. Because what good is it if we just say yes to you, but we can't even service your people? It's going to make you look bad. It's going to make us look bad. And so we needed to make sure that we hired more people, because the ones that we had, we didn't want to double their work just because we could, because they work for us. I think a lot of leaders, it's I'm the boss and you're the employee. The unfortunate part with that is Steven can go get a job somewhere else too. He can get paid somewhere else, right? And so if you make this culture, and I know it's a buzzword, like having good work culture, but for us, Seamus and I like to have a lot of fun. We're laughing a lot. We like to, on a Friday, open up a bottle of scotch with everyone. Let's have fun. We like food a lot. You can tell, and you can tell with Seamus as well. Both of us, we like to eat, but like when we eat, everyone's eating. And I mean that in the most literal sense, like when we're eating a box of pizza, but also like even if we're making money, we want to share that with our team. We want them to grow with us. Because Patrick, it's hard to find good people, like good people that are loyal. They want to stay with the growth and understand that with growth comes challenges. I never tell my staff that look, there's not going to be challenges. I just want them to ride with me. And then when they're happy, it's why I think most of our clients are happy. It's the best compliment that we get. Like when clients write us emails or call us and say, Jas, Laura was amazing to work with. Tyler was amazing. Like that is by far the biggest compliment, because not that me and Simos are not one-on-one with our clients. We are on a regular basis, but at the scale that we are, we help a little over, and I'm not saying this to impress anyone, just to impress upon people where the data is coming from. We help a little over 700 families a year to either buy, sell, or invest. That's a lot of families. And then also the fact that we probably came across 3, 4, 5,000 people that are not ready right now. And,
Sure.
and so you just need to service them.
I love the kind of the context that you create, that you and Simeon have created for the business. And I want to dig into a little bit about your background, but back to this values conversation just briefly, is that, I've learned and I've made my mistakes along the way. As soon as I got out of alignment with my values, that's when business and shit hit the fan, right? And, there was when we talk about ethos or the statement of character of a business or an organization, I actually applied an acronym to ethos, which was energy, trust, heart, ownership, and sharing. So, that was really about what is the energy that you bring. Like you've been in lots of relationships, or you've come across different relationships where it's like their energy sucks. You're that dude that you bring it. You and Simeon, your whole team, you guys bring energy into a room, you light it up, right? That's who you are by your nature, right? And then the trust, that's the first thing that you talked about, was the level of trust that you have with your clients. Your heart's in it. If your heart's not in it, I don't give a shit what your mindset is, because you can overcome anything with mindset. But if your heart's not in it, it's not going to work, right? And then ownership. And this is where it's so important, the ownership component of it, because you own it all. In other words, you accept full responsibility for the results, and you focus on the results with your team. So in other words, you don't blame your team for shitty results. You own it. In other words, what did I do wrong? What did I not communicate? Where was I responsible as your leader for this? And then of course, sharing. You're sharing content. You said it right out, and you do it all the time. You're putting stuff out there. You're sharing your knowledge, your education, your insights, your love, your whatever you can share, you share. That's how you're built. So that's a values-based conversation. And people don't understand that they can actually, I don't think, I shouldn't say that. That's a sweeping comment. Many don't understand that that really is the difference between good and great.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, brother. I mean, when things happen, even with clients, because the amount of people and families that we're helping, like our staff know at the end of the day, the buck will always stop with myself or CMOS. I mean, in terms of roles, I do, like I said, the front facing stuff. So I have my own core group. CMOS has his own core group. And I mean, my guys know, I tell them all the time, it's all my fault. And I truly, truly believe that, because I hired you and I could fire you if I feel like you're stealing or you're being rude or your heart's not in it, for example. I have to hold myself accountable. At the end of the day, I also hired the person that hired someone else. Like Tyler hired one of our newest concierge directors, and this person makes calls to our clients. And if something goes wrong with this guy, or something happens with a client, at the end of the day, it's not even Tyler's fault. It's my fault, because I'm the one who hired Tyler, right? And so I think my staff love that at the end of the day, there's not a phone call that I'm concerned to get on. Like if a client is being rude, I'm going to pick up the phone and have a conversation with the client. If the client is being pushy or they're just being tough, whatever that might be, I grew up on the phone. So for me to pick up the phone and call a client, I'm never afraid of a situation. And we have stuff come up all the time. And I think you know this as well, Patrick. As an entrepreneur, you're putting out a lot of fires at times, right? And so sometimes my days consist of just putting out fires, because I also run a media company as well, where I create content for real estate agents, and that is a lot of fires that need to put out and that need to be put out. But I'm not afraid to pick up the phone and just have those hard conversations with our clients, also with our staff as well. And so I love the acronym, by the way. I'm gonna definitely dive into that more.
Use it. It's I share it with the RAIN community all the time, and it's more about defining, what you're going to be, how you're going to be, who you're going to be, whatever language you want to use around it. It's intentional. It's not by accident. I see the most successful people, and I look at you and Simeon, for example, the business that you built. That's not by accident. That took a lot of thought. It took a lot of intentionality. You had to question who you are or what you are and how you're going to present it. It takes work. And there's lots of excuses behind why people don't do things. And so I want to dig into something, because you said it earlier, and I want to dig into it a little bit, because it's always about the journey. This podcast is about seemingly ordinary, achieving extraordinary, which you've done. You are pretty seemingly ordinary. You're like many, like me, you're raised on the wrong side of the tracks. You got parents that, didn't know how to spell entrepreneur. They just knew how to spell and work hard. That's all they really knew. They had 3 boys that they had to raise and give as good upbringing as they can. And by the way, not only raise them and look after them, feed them, clothe them, get them to school on time or whatever that might be, but also teach them, how do you be in society? Who are you? How do you morally do it? So let's go back to that a little bit. So were your parents, I'm assuming, but I don't know this to be true, I'm assuming were immigrants, came into Canada?
Yeah. Yeah, 1974-ish.
Okay, so you're born and raised here?
Yep.
And so tell me a little bit about your journey to an entrepreneur. You did a little bit of sales stuff, you did, worked at a bank, but how did you all of a sudden take on and become this entrepreneur, this business owner? Were you kind of always driven to do that as a kid? Like, where did it come from for you?
Yeah. For me, I knew, looking back for sure now, I know why, even at the age of 6 and 7, I was the first kid when the teacher said, who wants to help with the book sale or the bake sale? We don't even celebrate Christmas. When they said, do you want to knock on doors and sell Christmas ornaments? I was like, first person jumping off my chairs, like, please, please, please let me do it. Looking back, it was because I just knew I didn't want to be in class. Like, I loved school. It was class that I just didn't really like much, because I didn't learn in that setting. And not to say that it's wrong. I think like, we need people to go and get degrees. Like, we need engineers, we need doctors, we need lawyers, all that kind of stuff. For me, especially now, like in the last 3-4 years with podcasts and YouTube and before then I was a big reader, but now like I was into the self-help stuff. Like I'm a big Anthony Robbins guy, but Jack Canfield, like the late great Stephen Covey, and rest in peace to the late great Bob Proctor. Like I really studied those guys. That education for me was fun. I stayed up late at night learning that and woke up really early as well. I just had a thirst for it. And so sales for me, Patrick, was I knew I had a little bit of talent in it. Like you could just tell, like in the core group of friends that I grew up with, sorry. I mean, I could remember if, we wanted to play basketball and maybe a couple of people want to play basketball, but maybe two of us want to play soccer. There was a way that I always got a way to get, like, let's go play soccer, right? Like I knew I had a way with the teachers as well. I had that, I hate to use this word, but kind of that gift of gab. And I had a little bit of charisma. But then as I got older, I also realized, oh my God, I'm really bad at other stuff. You said not spelling entrepreneur. Oh my God, I can't spell half the words I say. Like I have a very tough time spelling. I have a very tough time putting emails together. I tell all my clients, please do me a massive favor, write all your emails in the subject line, because if they go too long for me, I'm just not going to read them. I'm going to reply back to you and say, let's get on a phone call. Because that's how, like, let me get to what you really, really need. And so for me, I think as an entrepreneur, it's very important to understand what you're not good at, because then you can easily delegate and have other people help you do that. My journey really, I mean, my father, like I mentioned, was a taxi driver, mother a factory worker. This was never in the family, but I knew that I wanted to be, like, I thought it was cool to be a businessman. I didn't even really know what it was, but what do people do? I always liked it. And I knew I wasn't going to go to school for a very long, like after high school. And that's why I think after car sales, which I was probably 20 to 23, I always wanted to invest in real estate. And there was that one big ticket item that was left. I think it's safe to say real estate is one of the biggest purchases the public, with the average person will be making. And so I had that one challenge left. That's how I got into real estate, why I got into real estate, with the mix of investing in real estate. And as I started, 23 licensed, I figured, look, I think I can do this, but I want to grow a team. And I met a guy, the partner who passed away, and we started to grow a team at that time. Simeon came a couple of years later. We needed someone with his skill set for sure, but I knew that I wanted more people to grow with me. So the entrepreneurial, I was probably more of a sales guy than wanting to run a business and own a business at a young age. But come around 23, 24, I knew this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, because I also realized I'm not really driven by the money. I like it. I like the scoreboard it gives you, and like you can see, like, okay, how much is this growing by? But I'm not really driven by it. I know that for sure, because I'm not a fancy guy. Like not that there's anything wrong with the Rolexes and the Bentleys and all that kind of stuff. I don't care for that stuff. I wear the same, your listeners can't see it, but I wear, a hoodie and a t-shirt every single day to work. And that's just who I am. I wear pretty much the same black or blue jeans every day. And so for me, it's really the growth of other people, and to see where we, in the real estate side right now, how big can we take this? Like where can this go? I'm very, very curious to see how far we can take this. And so that is what keeps me up at night.
Beautiful. Now, when you look at your family, just out of curiosity, you said you had two brothers. Did they go on to be business guys? Or were they totally, what did they do?
My eldest brother, who's turning 50 in August, he runs a couple of dealerships right now. He doesn't own the dealerships. He's the general sales manager for two of Honda and a Toyota dealership, and so he always had the knack for business as well. He ran like a gym, like a personal, like a fitness gym for a while. It just didn't work out. And so then he went into car sales as well, and he just worked his way up. And now he runs that dealership. My middle brother, he's, I actually I actually think he's one of the happiest people because he's just like, if I tell him we have a massive investment opportunity, he doesn't care. Like, that's just not him. He's all about his three kids, two daughters and a son. He works for Air Canada. He's been there for, I don't know, 20 years or something now. And he likes to clock out, go home, have a beer, just chill with his kids, watch football, maybe, on Sundays. But he's happy. I think he's won the lottery because driven by he's not driven by money either. Like, he's happy. He's found himself. Where my elder brother, he's very ambitious. I was really lucky because having two older brothers, especially the one that's 10 years older than me. See, when I was 10 years old, he used to take me out for dinner with his friends. So I was in conversations at that time with 20-year-olds. And then when I was 15 with 25 years old and 30, with 40-year-olds. So when I got to that age, now being 40, I feel like I've kind of been here before. It's because of those conversations that that elder brother really allowed me to sit in on. And he had a simple rule: don't speak unless you're spoken to. And I could tell why at a young age, when I was 15, 16, he would say that to me, because he really taught me, listen. Like, you just need to listen. Don't speak out of turn. He also probably didn't want me to embarrass him or something if there was the opposite sex around for him. And I get that, but it served me really well. Like, I sit now as, with the role that I'm in, I ask some questions and then I just sit there and listen. I try to reverse engineer if I can help someone. So that skill really came because of him.
When you look at your business development and, you talked about the personal development, that all spoke to, because there's a fundamental question that I like to ask of some of my guests, which is, are you a born leader? Do you believe in the born leader concept? Or do you think leadership is something that has to be not only practiced, but it has to be intentional? You don't come out of the chute being a leader. You may have some propensity to be a leader, but do you study the fine arts of being a great leader?
Yeah, so I personally, and I don't know if there's scientific proof or there's like research papers on this by any means, but I think that you need to learn to be a leader. I think it was Simon Sinek that said this. So I'm going to paraphrase. Leadership is really like brushing your teeth, right? Like, you need to do it 2 times a day, and that is what keeps your teeth clean. It's not the going to the dentist every 6 months or even every quarter, if you go to the dentist every quarter, where I think people think of leadership like that, right? Like, okay, I'm going to go to a conference and learn about leadership once every 4 months or every 6 months. Let's all, the heads of the organization, let's go there for 3 days, 2 days to a conference, and doing that 2 or 3 times a year will make us all good leaders. No, it's a constant brushing your teeth twice a day. And if you do it 3 times a day, even better, where you need to continuously practice this. And it takes a lot of work especially when you have the mindset that you actually work for them. Because back to my earlier statement about, I think I was picking on Stephen, that he can find a job anywhere. So just paying him doesn't give you the audacity to treat him like crap or not give him an environment that he's going to be happy with, because he can go get that from somewhere else. Like, when you actually come from the mindset that you work for them, and that doesn't mean like letting people just walk all over you, right? Like, I mean, actually caring about them as people, that has to happen on a daily basis. Like, I know the second, Patrick, my 12 support staff, like the 12 core people that are with me on a regular basis, the second they walk in the morning, Patrick, I can tell you if they had a bad day at home. I know them that much. And if they did, I'm not going to call them out in front of people. I just know I'm going to pull back from them a little bit today. I'm not going to push them. I'm just not going to push them. I can tell by their eyes. I can tell by how they say hi to me. Like, I just know that EQ of mine, I believe, is high. I don't know if I have a very high IQ, but the EQ is something that I truly believe that I have a skill in, and it's high, and it serves me well, because when I know Stephen is having a bad day, or I'll let him be and let him get out of it. But when it's 3-4 times in a row, I know with Stephen, I need to take him for a beer. It's not going to be a boardroom sit down. I'm not going to get anything out of him. With Laura, for example, I know, okay, she needs probably a burger or a Diet Coke. Like, it just changes her state.
Sure.
With Tyler, I need to go for a walk. So I'm going to try to catch a time where we're going to go to the bank. Instead of me going by myself, I'm going to say, hey, Tyler, let's go for a walk. And I know I really, really know my people. And so for me, I think leadership is something that has to be practiced on a daily basis.
You talk about mindset, so my wife, Stephanie, who's an athletic performance coach, a mental performance coach, Olympic class, world class. She's done it for many, many years. So we decided to do a podcast called Mindset Matters. And so it's part of the Everyday Millionaire podcast series. But the point is that around the mindset understanding of it, we're on the journey. Like, so we coach it, but we're on the journey. We're going through the same shit that that everybody else is. Do we have some additional skills? Do we have a view of the world that many don't? Yeah, that's why we do it. I mean, at this point in our lives, I'm on the other side of 60. And so, I've learned a few things. And so I can share that. That knowledge and it's such an important aspect of what we do as business owners and as leaders. So the question I have for you around it, you talk about, I think there's a great Simon Sinek analogy or metaphor, whatever we call that. But the point is, it's really cool. You got to work it, right? And there's a fundamental is that, and I'm sure you've had this experience, and I know that you and Simeon will do it differently. Corporations are famous for this. They send out their leaders to some conference, a personal or professional development conference. They go for 3 days or 2 days, and it's all intense, and their leadership comes back all fired up to make change and do things differently. And then they don't create the environment. They don't change the environment. So in other words, it's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You got all this new knowledge, but we're not changing the environment. So what I get as I'm speaking with you is a couple things, and I want to dig into this a little bit, is that you and Simeon have created an environment for your team to thrive, for you to be able to communicate and for you to be able to thrive. Got it. Now, here we are 2 years in, hopefully coming to some form of an end of pandemic and lockdowns and blah, blah, blah. So were you at a time, did you go through an extended period of time where you weren't like physically getting together with your team, or did you guys, aside from the initial shutdown, the initial lockdowns, did you guys work a way around it? Because it sounds to me like you're built, you got to be around people, and is that the case or not the case?
Like you said it, and like I'm if you could tell, I'm getting goosebumps because that's when we went into the initial lockdown, whatever it was, 15th of February here in Canada. My first thought was, oh my God, we're not going to be together. We are such a family here. And that was, and you're taking me back for sure for almost 2 years ago. And that was my biggest concern. But I mean, at the start, as I'm sure we all were, as we washed even the packaging on the fruit that we picked up, we had no clue what the heck was going on. And so I just said, everybody go home. Now, I was I was wrong in terms of me saying, guys, this is going to be 2 weeks. So everybody enjoy a little bit of a vacation. I understand. Go home. We'll figure it out. And then as the first 2 weeks, we learned this is going to be a little bit longer. What I did right away was start a virtual office. We called it our VO, virtual office, which was a Zoom running all day long. So luckily, because we are national, like we have national clients,
sure,
we knew the platform Zoom. Like we were very ahead of it. We didn't need to learn it. We had our accounts, understanding the mute buttons, oh, you're on mute, Patrick, like all that kind of stuff. We already went through it. So when this happened, we knew we were going to be able to speak to our clients. That was going to be fine. But I was like, okay, how are we actually going to get work done? Like, how are we actually going to gel together? The virtual office was the biggest thing that I think that we did at the start, which was we ran it from 8:30 in the morning till 5:30 at night. What it did for us is that we actually ate together like we eat here at the office, where when I was at home, I brought my food to the table, Laura did the same thing, Tyler did the same thing, and we would just have conversations while we were on the Zoom. If I had to take a call, I would take a quick call, I would put it on mute. Tyler, like all of us would be working, but it was just that sense of, okay, I can see Tyler, I can see Laura, I can see Steven, and they can call on me. So that's the first thing we did, and that probably ran for about 2 months. At that time, and I always feel weird saying this, but we as real estate agents were essential services. I feel weird because I really know who the real essential people are, but the government deemed us as essential. So we were always able to come back to the office, but for 60 days, we did everything virtually. We spoke to our team, I'm going to say like our outer 54, 55 agents, at least 2 to 3 times a week, just personal phone calls. Simos would call them. I would call them. We would try to do a Zoom drinking kind of night on Fridays at 6 p.m. for half an hour. Everybody just have a drink together. So we tried to keep the culture as much as we possibly could. Obviously, it was nowhere near when you're actually with people. But then around the 60-day mark, we started to come back to the office. Mm-hmm. And we kept it very small. There was like 3-4 of us. We were lucky enough to have 3-4 offices. We all were in our own offices, but at least we can yell at each other across the room and get work done. So at that time, I think the biggest pivot we made was actually having this virtual office, which actually translated to our clients, funny enough, mm-hmm. because we're built to do live events. We've been doing live events for 17 years. We did wine and cheeses at our office here, 75, 80 people strong, once every quarter, once every 3 months. So when that hit, we weren't obviously prepared to do webinars. It never came to us till about 30 days later. And we started going live on Facebook every other Saturday. And that was probably the biggest game changer in the last 2 years by far, because it gave our clients a place to congregate. Every Saturday at 10:30 a.m., they knew they were going to see Simos, and at least Simos and myself, if not the Tylers and the Lauras, and a couple of other of our team members, Bobby, for example, who's our director of team operations. They knew that they were going to see us, and we were just going to have real estate conversation. Very similar to this, like just a conversation, no scripts. We started bringing food on, and we call it brunch with REC. So I would bring food. Simos would bring food, and we just had, and we've been going on. We've been doing this now. We still do it. We don't go every other Saturday. We go once a month now. But I think that the VO with our team and then the brunch with REC were the 2 biggest pivots we made in the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's interesting because, of course, we were doing 60, sometimes more events a year live.
Wow.
And so because we were going across the country, we do Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, Ottawa, like we were every month, right? So and then major events. So we switched over to Zoom, like we already had an international team. So it was easy for us to do that. We quickly did that. And I think for the, that 90-day period, we really led the way in terms of giving a place for our community to come hang out. And we did cocktails and conversation on Friday nights, and, we'd come and debate things and, drink too much. And we'd always have a couple hundred people hanging out, right? So it was really fun. And so we turned it, and it was what was interesting about that, because we're in the space called education and research, because we're a national organization and we have members right across the country, it was interesting because as speakers, this, as speakers, you're delivering content, you got an audience, they seem engaged, they seem all the rest of it, but okay, you've done your presentation, you put your deck together, you spent whatever time you did, and then what, right? And then if you're lucky, somebody in that audience got to ask you a question if you weren't too busy or if there wasn't too many other people. Here's what's interesting about what we've gotten very good at, and what I've noticed about it is the audience engagement is a game changer, because now people are listening to us deliver content, research, all the things, and the chat's just lit up all the time. Yeah. People are asking questions. Now, if we got our eye on if we personally as a speaker, we can have our eye on the chat, and often because we do it a lot, we can answer those questions in real time, and or somebody on the team is there to answer those questions in the chat, right? So it's an interesting, and as in the world of real estate, as you know, real estate, it's great. Ontario's the hottest market in town. Well, got it, GTA, Toronto, whatever, surrounding area. But Ontario's a really hot province. Alberta's not a hot province. And what we're seeing is money migrate into Alberta as an example. Well, all of a sudden, where it was difficult to connect with a realtor, with a property manager, with the team, now you go Ontario to the other side, you go to BC, whatever, or vice versa. And it really changed. So, a lot of positive things came out of that in the scope of the business. But man, oh man, I miss the face to face. I miss the hugs I got from members. I mean, we have members that have been around for years and years and years. I mean, so it was like you get to be friends with them, and then all of a sudden you don't see them anymore. That's weird.
I'm a natural hugger. Like that's just like I love being hugged, and I like hugging people, right?
Totally.
And so for me, I mean, I think I miss that like yourself the most. But I agree. Like for us, we didn't see the chat group stuff coming either. Like when we were doing these brunches and these live webinars, we didn't know about that chat function. And when we started seeing people speak to each other, somebody from Alberta and somebody from Quebec, and just having a conversation about real estate, or just, oh my God, nice to meet you. Oh, that was a great question that you asked the boys. We were like, oh my God, this is amazing. There's a real community being built here, right? I mean, Rain's at a different, in my opinion, Rain's at a different level because you guys are so large and you've been doing it for so long that, I mean, it's just amazing to see the growth that you guys have had. With us, it was new, right? Because like you said, when you do live events, people are not really speaking to each other. They like when we do our wine and cheeses, we try to have them speak and network. And,
don't know as well.
But they're all kind of in their own little circles, or they want to come speak to us because they haven't seen us for a while. And I say it on a lot of brunches that, guys, like, if somebody wants, like, from a real estate perspective, this is the best thing in the world for you guys because you can cut us out and we're okay with it. Like, meaning do a joint venture together, like at the
100%
bare minimum. Minimum.
Yeah.
Let's just stay very focused. Go and just speak to each other and ask each other the question, like, hey, what are you looking for in a partner, in a joint venture partner? And you might need to speak to 14 of them to jive with 4, and you might get one deal done. But where else can you sit in your pajamas now and just network with people?
Well,
so I think it was one of
there's so many things to that, right? And I know that, because you're in the same conversation often, we talk about growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And it's interesting to talk to people that go, I just can't do this Zoom thing. It's got to be it's got to be face to face, or it's, it doesn't work for me. And I try not to, and I don't really judge it. I don't necessarily relate to it. I don't understand it because I go, you are missing so many opportunities to actually meet people, to expand your horizons of the network. I mean, it's like you're like limiting yourself. And that's the interesting thing about this pandemic, because it's been very divisive, very polarizing, very political. It's like it pisses everybody off in so many different ways, but out of it came some really cool things. This way of being is one of them, this way of operating. I think, I've had birthday dinners with my daughter and son-in-law and my grandkids, because they live in Edmonton and I live in British Columbia, right? So I'm doing that. So that's really kind of cool, like that we can do that and have some fun and do it. But my point is that the limitations that we had that we didn't even know were limitations before, like networking. I've talked to more guys, CEOs, for example, and you think about it yourself, Jas. Just think about this. Does it make sense for you? And how often will it make sense in the future to get on an airplane, to fly to Vancouver, 5 hours in the air, an hour on each end, plus accommodations, to have a 3-hour meeting, lose the day, and it's not losing the day in Vancouver or Toronto is not a bad thing, but you know what I'm saying? 3-hour meeting, to then get on a plane the day after to do it all, to fly back again. So it's 3 days to do really a 3-hour meeting. And I've talked.
I don't know who's going to do that.
Who's going to do that anymore?
Who's going to want to do that? I totally agree. Like I can do now, Patrick. I can probably get where in the past, even if it was local in the GTA, so call it that 75-kilometer radius, I probably could on max do 2 podcasts a day on max, and then do my regular day job. Now I could do 6 and still get everything else done that I needed to do. Right. The first question I ask people is, do you do them on like a streaming service? Because I don't have to leave then, right? And then I'm also like I haven't left my office probably now for about 4 years, right? Like even when I do client meetings, the clients come in here. Like I've had clients, in Ontario, so I'm not sure how it was in British Columbia. We went through at least 2 patches in the last 2 years where it was okay for people to meet people, like where they kind of opened up the lockdown and the restrictions. And I had clients call me and say, "Hey, Jas, like, okay, we'll come meet you." And I'm like, "You're coming from the other end of GTA in the middle of traffic. It's going to take you 2 hours just to get here, what normally would take 20 minutes." I'm like, "Just sit at home, guys. I'll send you a link. Click the link. I know we can see each other." So just even day-to-day business.
100%. There's one of probably my all-time favorite sayings is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Wayne Dyer said that. And when we look at, from a business perspective, even, you and Simeon, you get in a car, you drive an hour, you go meet with clients, whatever, drive an hour and a half, 2 hours because of traffic on the way back. Like, it's just so not efficient. And on top of that, you could now have a meeting with your key people. It's an hour out of their day as opposed to 4 or 5 hours, so in other words, you can have a meeting with a client with 2, 3, 4 other key people, get way more accomplished, get way more handled, look after that client better. And it takes an hour out of everybody's day as opposed to herding cats, parking cars, doing all the things. It makes no sense. So there's that was just one example of what was cool out of COVID.
And just to quickly add to that, as a content creator, for me, I asked you at the start, do you mind if I get the recording? So that's just innate in me now, where if I was meeting with a client one-on-one and I brought in a videographer, it seems a little weird, and they're like, "Well, what's happening?" And so if I'm speaking with a client now, I tell them, "Guys, this is being recorded." Really, because now I have all the notes.
Sure.
I don't have to have my assistant in the meeting. My assistant can do something else. We save time there to get more done. The notes can literally just come in a transcription. But I also ask the client, say, "Look, I'm going to take some clips out of this because then I can also educate some other people, because the questions you're going to ask me, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I've gotten the same questions, and 10,000 other people are actually wondering the same thing as well. I'm not going to put you in the video. It's just going to be me. It's going to be my face. Are you okay with it?" 99.9% of people say, "Yeah, no problem." So just from a content creation perspective, it is a massive win for me. For Simos and I, when you were speaking about meetings, him and I we just go off on tangents when we're in meetings together, one-on-one, where we're trying to talk about, like you can imagine, try to get us, we did a live.
No, I don't want to be, I know.
So it's good because it's recorded now. It's recorded where it's like, we give it to one of our assistants and it's just like, "Can you take out these 4 3-pointers?" And now the work also gets delegated a lot quicker as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go off on a totally different tangent. So you've got a business, you've got all of the responsibilities, accountabilities, stresses of business. In your time of growing your business, you had to make some hard decisions. And some of those decisions were, there's financial cost to it, financial risks to it. One of the things that, and I'm sure, and I'd like your spin on it because I know that you deal with this too as a coach. One of the things that I bump up against with people all the time is the fear factor. Okay? Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear. Sit on the sidelines. Back 2 years ago, I started saying, the narrative we had right away, because we just know this, which is the pandemic is going to create more opportunities in the world of real estate than we can imagine. We don't know what they are. This was literally in April of 2020. We were saying that. We just don't know what they are yet. And was it all freaky and frightening? Of course. But so having said all that, our mindset is watch for the opportunities because they're going to start to show up. Now, a lot of people shut down around that whole thing. How do you handle fear? How do you yourself deal with the fear that shows up for you? Are you fearless?
Oh, I'm definitely not fearless. Like I have fear all the time. I'm scared because I don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so sometimes I'm really more now, like for me, I mentioned to you, first and foremost, I'm a father and a husband. And so when my wife is good and my kids are good, that gives me a lot of foundational gratitude. Like I can take on a lot now, because that's probably the one thing that if anything happened there, knock on wood, like that would really shake my world. And I'm sure anybody who's listening who's married or a father or mother or a parent understands what I'm saying. So when that's taken care of and that's good, now I can take on a lot. I can take a lot of punches, especially like as long as they don't all come at the same time. If they come at the same time, I might have a problem. When they don't, I can take a lot of punches. And so for me, what I remind myself is where I was. To answer your question, Patrick, how I get over fear is I remind myself that at what, like 5 years ago, I would have dreamt to be where I am now, and I'm actually further than I probably thought I was going to be. But even then, I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the people in my life. I didn't have the education. I didn't have the experience. So I remind myself of the journey that I've already taken. And then when I'm thinking about the future, I remind myself, okay, look, back then you didn't have it either, but it came somehow. One thing, and it's like the question that you asked, I mean, it's amazing because literally 2 hours ago, just before this recording, I was sitting down with my VP and I was telling her, I was like, I think the mantra for me this year and what I'm really going to focus on is not to think too far out. Meaning, about 2 weeks ago, that we got hit with the biggest storm since 1947 in Toronto. Literally, since 1947. And I got caught in the middle of it, because I was driving from Brampton, North Part, where I live now. I was coming into the office, and I don't really read the news often. And so I always say in my content that the easiest way to get clicks is when they tell you that there's a storm coming, because if they tell you that it's a sunny day, no one's going to click on that. So as they were saying, I was like, look, it's coming later on in the day. I'm going to be fine. I'm driving. I wake up. There's no snow where I am. I start driving. I'm in the middle, and I'm halfway to my office. It starts coming down hard, so hard that I can't see like half a foot in front of me. I can't see anything. I'm afraid now because I didn't want to pull over because I'm like, well, if I can't see, the people behind me can't see, I'm probably going to get hit. I'm just going to keep going. And in that moment, what happened to me, I remember feeling fearful that I can't see the signs. I don't even know where the exit, like it was bad. Like the worst one since 1947, Patrick. But for some reason, what came to me was, Jas, just keep seeing the 6 inches in front of you. That's it. Just keep going. Just keep going. And it started to unfold. And as I got closer to my exit, I saw it. But when I spent time about the 5 feet in front of me, it freaked me out because I couldn't see it. I could not see that. And so for me, when I'm thinking about business, when I'm thinking about personal stuff, the second I go too far out to the future, well, you can't predict it. And so much can happen. I now just focus on, okay, what's in front of me? Let me just deal with that. And then I'm going to deal with the next step and the next step. Dr. Martin Luther King, I think, said it best. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to see the next step. And for me, that's how I deal really with fear.
Beautiful. I love that. That's great. It's a great way to put it. I love that kind of thought process around fear. I use it often. It's funny that you bring it up, is that I haven't thought about it in terms of fear. I've often given that advice or taken that advice myself when it comes to overwhelm, because I found that when somebody's feeling overwhelmed, it's always because they're looking at the top of the mountain. They're looking at, what they've got to get done and what all needs to be done, and their future thinking. And, I've learned over the years that just what's next, that one step in front of you. But having said that, you bring to light a couple things in the framework or in the context of overwhelm lives fear. The fear of not being able to get it done, not being able to accomplish it, and the one step at a time. Fear. Many acronyms for fear, but future events appearing real. I mean, that's one of the most common, right? So future events, don't go too far out. Can you do one step? I shouldn't even say it, but there was a story about a guy in the army. I think it was, I don't know if he was a Navy SEAL or he was anyways, he's out in the middle of the desert and he'd been shot and both legs were not working. He had one arm, like he'd been shot 17 times. Like it was really an amazing story. And he had to crawl like 7 miles. Like it was an amazing story. And I'm just not doing it a service at all. But the point is this, he shared this. He would, I think, throw a rock as far as he could throw that rock, laying on the ground, pushing it forward. And it would be like 3 feet, 2 feet, 1 foot, 4 feet. And all he did was keep crawling to the rock. And it was some story along that line. The point is, if you get the context for it, which is just do what you can. And I think you said it brilliantly, just where I'm just got to drive the next 6 inches that I can see.
I got to tell you, Patrick, like I've been driving since 17, 18 years old. I've never been as scared as I was for a couple of minutes. Like literally so much was like, oh my God, I really made the wrong decision. I'm thinking about that. I'm calling my wife and saying, okay, make sure you're not leaving the house. And it was really just the cars around me as well. Like anybody knows in Toronto, like sometimes you're just scared of the other cars around you, right? I'm not a speedster. I'm not that person, but that reminding myself about the next step. And I think another, for lack of a better word, hack for people as well, if that doesn't work, just taking it one step at a time. I also think it's tough to have fear and gratitude at the same time, to feel both. Like when you're feeling fearful, if you could ever tap into gratefulness, oh my God, there's so much there, right? And look, and sometimes you have to go like really, really deep. Sometimes you could just be grateful for the fact, like, I'm just so grateful that I'm having a podcast talk with Patrick. Like out of all, like Patrick speaks to so many people. You're very successful. You run one of the most successful real estate organizations in the country, if not the continent, if not the world. Like, I'm not, like
well, I don't know about that. And we do hold ourselves as the best of the world. We always say we're the best in the world at what we do.
There you go. There you go.
What
right?
we do.
And I'm on your podcast. Now, the bigger the possible fear, the deeper I might need to go into gratefulness, right? Like I, in 2 seconds, can go, like snap of a finger, I can be very grateful because I know what my triggers are. And my triggers are, I just think about my boys. Because once I think about my 8-year-old and 6-year-old, they don't care that I had a bad day with clients. They just don't care, right? And so I quickly go to them. And I mean, there's just so many triggers that we can use. I mean, you need to, if you're not a parent, I'm not sure if people know, but there's approximately 1 billion people that don't have access to running water.
Mm-hmm.
Approximately 1 billion people that don't have access to running water. And you're worried that your investment property didn't work out. Like are you losing in multiple
If you
offers?
can't find anything to be grateful for, you just need actually a benchmark. There's 1 billion people that don't have access to water. You got a lot to be grateful for. And it's hard to see sometimes. It is hard to see.
Yes,
it is hard to see. No doubt.
100%.
Yeah.
100%, right? Like, I mean, in Toronto right now, you probably need to put in 10, 15 offers before you actually win one. And I get it. People are very like, oh my God, what's going on? I can't win an offer. Can we just take a deep breath for a second? Like we're looking for a 1.7 million, $2.2 million.
Here's what I say to investors all the time is that you don't walk down the beach finding gold and diamonds. You don't walk down the street picking up diamonds and picking up gold or whatever. You got to dig. You got to work for those things. You want gold, you want diamonds. Sometimes it takes work. You got to mine that, And so don't expect to just walk down the street and get it. And at times mining is easy. And at other times, you got to work your ass off. As a matter of fact, you got to use dynamite and nitroglycerin to get those deals handled. So,
no, I mean, I love social media. I love it. Like I love the ability to learn and have access to people that we never had access to. I try to give that access to people as well, and really from an educational perspective. But I think one of the negatives is some people are caught up in getting success and results very quickly, right? And you see people, you're on Instagram, you're an investor, and because you saw somebody flip a couple of homes, do a burst strategy, or whatever it is, make millions of dollars, A, you either think they did it overnight, or B, you just forget that sometimes people are just lie. Like it's not the truth. Like there's a lot of people, content creators that rent a jet or skip over a fence at the airport, take a picture with a jet, and they act like they own it, right?
Oh, yeah,
so
I know some of those guys. I know some of those guys.
Right? You gotta dive. You gotta actually dig, to take your terms, Patrick. You gotta dig to find out who the real people are as well.
Okay, so there's a bunch. So there's a fundamental around that what you just said, and I use this as an example all the time. Is somebody may look at Jas Takhar and go, here's a guy, he's built a business, he's got this great business, this great team, he's made millions, he's done all the things that he's done, and they want that outcome, but they're not willing to go on the journey. And when you look at how you've constructed your journey, okay, so has it been hard? Yes, but you took the journey. You're actually making a conscious choice every day to walk that path, to go on that journey, and to face whatever you have to face on the journey. We see it all the time. It's like, because we work, well, primarily my wife, Stephanie, but I mean, I've worked with athletes with her for many, many years, and everybody wants the gold medal. They have no clue, and they have no actual scope or context for what it took to do that. And so then they beat themselves up, or they're bummed out because they don't have that. So it's just always a shift of going. You gotta embrace the journey. Like, you gotta be excited about the journey. And if you get the outcome, that's awesome. But if you're not excited about the journey, then guess what? You're going to quit. You're not going to do it, or you're going to be really dissatisfied with life, because you better like the journey. And I can tell, you can tell me if I know I'm not, but you love the journey. You love being the leader. You love being the content creator. You love being the partner. You love making a difference in people's lives. You love being a contribution to others. You get to have significance, which is a normal human need. And you get to do it by doing something you love to do, which is being a contribution, making a difference in other people's lives. That's the journey that you're on. The outcome, to your point, is, yeah, the money's awesome too, but that's a byproduct of living an amazing life and getting to do what I love to do.
Yeah, I mean, you said so much there that I would want to unpack as well. First thing is, I'm still on this journey, and I'm so excited about the process. Like, when the lockdown happened, my partner passed away tragically. I knew it was my place to shine. Like, internally, I knew it. I knew it was my time to bring all the tools that I learned from the Bob Proctors and
Tony Robbins and all of it. Yeah.
My my partner who passed away, he was definitely a mentor to me. But that's when it came to me at that time, as well as this recent lockdown, which was, okay, Jas, all these books that you've listened to, remember, it's not power. The knowledge is not power. Just reading them means garbage. It means nothing. It's the actual use of it now. And so I had all these tools. I had all these tools already in the toolbox. And that's when I realized, okay, time to use them now. And the process of the ups and downs in business, losing some people. I mean, 5, 6 years ago, I mean, we had other business partners, and they we had court battles. They literally took a little over $700,000 to $800,000 from both Simeon and I and my ex-partner. We, court case, we won, all that kind of stuff. We didn't get all our money back, not even close to it. Anybody who's been in any type of legal battle, it generally goes to the lawyers. There's at least some closure around that. But all of that, all those downs, I'm here because of that stuff. I'm here because I was able to go through that. And, when you said being able to do what I love to do, it's one of the reasons I feel like I'm one of the luckiest people in the world, because I don't really go to work. I use that word like, okay, honey, I'm going to work now. Or I tell my little boys, okay, daddy's going to go to work on Sunday or Saturday, whatever it is. But I'm getting to live in my hobby every single day. I'm sitting and doing the podcast with you. After this is done, I'm sure my team's going to say, hey, Jas, you got some callbacks to do. And I get to speak to clients and to see them grow, and create wealth in real estate, something that my parents never got to do because they didn't have the education. And that's not on anyone except for them. They never went and got the education, right? And for me, I was lucky to have people around me that said, hey, there's other ways of earning money. But to your point, Patrick, I have been blessed to make millions, and that's never changed who I am. I actually think when you make more money, it just exposes who you really are. If you're an ass before, you're a bigger ass
just
now.
A bigger ass,
if you're a kind heart, you're just going to be that much more kinder. And so for me, somebody's going to DM me on Instagram and tell me that their piece of content, a piece of my content helped them in some way. I like that more than a commission check that my team makes, because I'm happy for my team. I'm really happy for them, and I'm happy for the client. But I don't need another car. I'm not going to buy a second car with the money. Like the DM to me, the email for me, that is everything. That is like, and I'm lucky again. Like I'm so blessed and grateful that I get those 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. And that to me is really the process that I'm enjoying. There is no destination. You know, you spoke about yourself and your wife, Stephanie. I mean, you get to deal with athletes. I think one of the disadvantages in being an athlete, and I'm a massive sports fan. Like I probably know too much about sports. Like I don't need to know as much as I got useless data in my brain about sports. But I think it's unfortunate that the age, you know, unless you're Tom Brady, a Cristiano Ronaldo, a Messi, a LeBron James, 35, 36, you got to stop playing now.
Yep.
You can't play anymore. And what you and I get to do, we get to do this if we choose to till the day we go.
Well, I share all the time. I'm on a Freedom 95 program because as long as I'm doing what I love to do and I get to do it, I will continue to do it.
I say Freedom 113 because 13 is my lucky number, and that's where I'm going to.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about, you know, we talk about partners, and, you know, I know I've had my share of partners and that didn't, mistakes made. But anyways, the question I have for you is, you and Simeon, you're like brothers from another mother. So, but I'm sure it isn't all, it isn't all cognac and roses. I mean, there's probably... No. So how do you, as a partner in your partnership, do you guys have agreements to how you're going to be with partners? Did they just evolve? Were they intentional? Did you intentionally define your relationship with Simeon? How did you how did you get your partnership to where it is today?
So 10 years ago, myself and Simeon decided, and our partner that passed away, that us three were going to go into business together. And then when our partner who passed away 4 years ago, Simeon and I just looked at each other and decided that we're going to continue the dream, because we were really, as you can imagine, just heartbroken. And there were some clients who left us, and as they should have, because that's their own decision. I never judge that. We had referral sources as well that left us. And again, all good in that sense. I mean, a lot of people are back now and we're all doing business together, and it is all cognac and roses in that sense. With Simeon and I specifically, I'm going to say majority of it was organic. Like other than that conversation with the three of us 10 years ago, we said, okay, we're going to go into business together, and this is how it's going to look. Not even from a roles perspective. It was just like, let's do this together. Let's grow this team. The agents at that time was probably 14, 15 agents, maybe 16 agents. Let's grow that aspect of the organization, as well as let's grow our client base as well. And then, but after the partner passed away, that's when Simeon and I decided, okay, we need to really define our roles now, because there's becoming a crossover. Like, I mean, where some of the agents are asking me to do certain stuff, and that's okay, but they're also asking you, and it's like there's just a lot of crossover. But
sure,
we're doing the same thing, and that's when we decided, okay, look, Jas, you be kind of client facing, you handle all that stuff, and Simos, because it comes second nature to him, he's going to handle all the defensive stuff, which is like the legals and the accounting, along with our team. Our team of 54 agents, they're independent contractors and very, very self-sufficient. They have their own client base. They've been a lot of them have been in business for 5 to 6 years and more. I mean, we got veterans that are with us for 20, like that have been real estate agents for 20 years. So, but there needs to be some accountability. They need to be able to go to someone. They need to know who to call on. And so that 4 years ago was probably the best decision we made, where these are our roles. So we know the core group around me, we actually call it like DM, which is Don Mills on the east side of the GTA. Simos is in Mississauga. He works there. Him and I meet up for sure. We kind of have a standing date every other Saturday. That's when we talk about any major decisions that need to be made. I completely stay out of what he does. I'm here as a sounding board for him. There is a lot of times that I would do things differently, but that's having a partnership and understanding that. On the flip side of the coin, he completely stays out of my way. And I know he would do things differently if he was running this part of the organization. But we just decided, if there was anyone other than my own, like my two older brothers, I said to myself, and he has a younger brother and a older sister, so he's the middle child. There would be no one else that I would trust more than Simos. Like I trust him. The money stuff, like we always knew, like we're not going to steal money from each other. It's just not who we are. You know, maybe it's the immigrant background. It's coming from where we came from. We knew the second if we steal money from each other, it's over. It's done. There is no coming back from that. That's kind of our
deal breaker. That's your deal breaker.
The deal breaker.
Yep.
That's we drew the line in the sand. So once we realize we're okay there, I don't ever wonder what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Like I just know whatever he's doing, he's trying to progress our growth.
Yeah, it's the best interest of the business.
It's the best interest of the business. He's going to be wrong because I also know how many times I've been wrong. And we just let each other play. And that took a while. You know, when you said it's not been cognac and roses in that sense, there's not, like, don't get me wrong, there's times where we will raise our voice at each other. Sure. Very few in the last 10 years. Maybe I can think of a handful to 7 times, but we just don't disrespect each other. And so that is the other line that we drawn in the sand, because, once you disrespect each other, things never, in our opinion, stay the same. I also have another business partner in my media company who's also Laura Stewart. She's the VP of REC Canada, but she just has a back, like she has an MBA in marketing and branding and really helped with the rebrand of our real estate company. So it just made it easy for me to call her in and become a partner in the media company. And I'm learning there as well, right? Like I think, sometimes I think I'm an amazing partner. And sometimes I know I have a lot more learning to do, because one skill that I don't have that is not as good as I want it to be, and that's the journey. I'm in progress kind of, is communicating to the quantity of what my partner might need. Meaning, Simo sometimes does need a little bit more communication because I'm really fast. I like to move fast, right? I do have a lot of energy, and sometimes I like to move fast, and I just make decisions, and then I'll deal with the ramifications afterwards of not getting it right. Laura's very similar to that. She likes for things to be communicated, and so I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be better. Where I'm really lucky with them too is that they know my intent is right. Like, they know how much love I have, like true love I have for them as a brother and as a sister, but that I'm not perfect. And they laugh amongst each other all the time. That's just Jas being Jas. Like, he's always trying to do something better for the business as well. However, he's not sometimes good with communication. And so I'm just trying to be better with that, right? And I try to stay out of their way as much as possible, because at the end of the day, whatever decision that they make, we wouldn't have known the outcome of the other decision. So who cares? Let's just move on. Yeah. There's very few things that could be detrimental to any one of our businesses right now. Very few things. And so, I feel very comfortable knowing that those are the two partners I have. And if somebody's listening right now thinking if they should go into a partnership, you really need to ask yourself why. Simos and I got very lucky because it did happen organically. The 10 years, like the 2-3 years leading up to the 10 years, him and I became friends as well. And so it kind of just happened organically. We spent a lot of time. I truly like his company. Yeah. Like, I like when he's around me. I like when we're having drinks and eating dinner together. I like Laura's company. So that makes it easier for sure. But I think you mentioned it earlier, Patrick. Partnerships are very, very tough because sometimes you just have different thoughts on where you want to take the business.
Views of the world, different values.
And I think that's where I'm lucky with both my partners, that our values are very similar.
Yeah, you got misaligned values. It's destined for crashing. Okay, we got to wind down. We've been going at this for a while, which is great.
Wow.
Love your stuff. Love you. You're fired up. You got lots of great. I love your conversation. But we're gonna do some rapid fire questions, Jas.
All right. Awesome.
Rapid fire, short and sweet. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Favorite book? What is one of your favorite books? The one that you maybe gift the most?
7 Habits of Highly Effective People from Dr. Stephen Covey.
Yeah, great book.
My favorite book of all time.
Yep. Seek first to understand and then to be understood.
The third habit. I love it.
Okay. Favorite swear word?
It's probably fuck.
Fuck.
Like, just said like that. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's the first thing that comes out. It's those fires that I need to put out.
Yes.
I release it. The second I say it, whatever that thought, it's all released. Now I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm an F-bomber. I can't, I try and not to. I've had guests on the podcast, and I've shared this before. I have guests on the podcast that go, "What's your favorite swear word?" They go, "Yeah, no, I don't really swear." I go, "How can you express yourself?"
Yeah.
I'm not worthy.
And mine's never really fuck on the table. It's not.
No. Yeah,
it's just like, okay, another thing. Another thing I got to deal with. Right? So, and now my assistant Parsa, who's amazing, the second he hears it, he'll just come into the room. Jas,
what's up? Yeah, what's going on?
What's up? What do you got to do? What's going on?
Do you have a favorite inspirational quote?
I think it's like, it's what I have as a sign in, and I keep on saying it's what I have. It's the studio that I had. It really is ready, fire, aim. I'm such a pull the trigger and adjust along the way kind of guy that for me, I get uneasy when I'm in aim too long before actually firing. And that doesn't mean don't aim. It means just pull the trigger, but then aim along the way. So for me, the inspirational quote is ready, fire, aim. Don't get stuck in paralysis by analysis.
Got it. Do you have a favorite tune?
A favorite tune?
Or band?
Ooh. Wow, I love all types of music. Where would I go with this? I mean,
it's a hard question. It's a hard question.
Yeah, it is. I'm really a big Tupac fan.
Yeah.
I actually loved his poetry more than anything else, but I like kind of his story and a lot of his messaging.
Favorite movie?
Scarface. Tony Montana.
Scarface. Usually, by the way, most dads or most people go, whatever my kid's watching these days. So,
my kids are watching some.
So I've had Frozen. I've had Frozen a few times.
Frozen, yeah.
Okay.
By far, Tony Montana is my. Al Pacino is my favorite actor of all time. Godfather. It really is a tie between Godfather, the first one, and actually the second one, and Scarface. But Scarface, I loved his acting in it.
Okay, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you get to the gates?
Thank you for inspiring people.
Beautiful. And speaking of gratitude earlier, what are you grateful for?
My parents. My kids wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be married to the person I'm married to. My father worked 24 hours a day because he worked airport taxi and then was off for it would be day on, day off. So he'd be off for 24 hours, but then he was sleeping for, 10 hours of that day. And till this day, I mean, he's alive, healthy, 77, 78 years old, just turned last week, 2 weeks ago. But he every night would come into my bed, whisper in my ear, "I love you," in our language, and give me a kiss. And I mean, my mother to work in a factory for 35 years, doing the same thing every single day, not understanding the language whatsoever. She had no idea, like, till this day doesn't know how to speak English, knows a couple of words, and that swear word being one of them, probably.
Sure.
And they tried to give us everything. We didn't grow up with everything, but we also didn't grow up with nothing. And there's nothing more than my two parents that I'm grateful for. Like, beautiful. By far, number one, like super, super, super pedestal stuff. It's my father and mother.
Beautiful. Well, I am grateful to have had the opportunity to have you as a guest on the podcast, Jas, and get to know you just that little bit better. A lot of sorts of insights going on in there. So thanks for your time. Thanks for your energy. And thanks for what you brought to the podcast today. Lots of lessons in there.
You're welcome. And thank you for having me, Patrick. Like, I can't wait to hug you when we see each other in person, because like I've been watching a lot of stuff that you've been doing. And I said it at the start and I'll say it at the end. It was a true honor to be on your podcast.
Well, thanks for joining me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. If you found value in the podcast, please take the time to rate and review and share with others. Share with your friends. as it is my goal to always improve and to provide the highest value for you, the listener. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions you'd like answered, please email me at ceo@reincanada.com. That's ceo@reincanada.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, Patrick out.